start over. You guys want to count me down? Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Kirks Grocery again. Welcome to our live stream on this Wednesday night, and I am here in the Extraction exhibition. There's a lot of amazing work by a lot of amazing artists, and Shane and I are going to show you around. He's going to show up a little. So what's Extraction? It's this kind of sort of grassroots, but international movement to have many different types of artists come together and explore the idea of extraction, art on the edge of the abyss. Most of the art does have to do with the extraction industries. And you might run into an extraction exhibition wherever you happen to live, but if you're in Montana, you may see work in Missoula, in Billings, in Helena, in Bozeman. It's just everywhere. So here at Kirks Grocery, what we have up here on the front wall is a piece by Gordon McConnell. Fans of Kirks and fans of Gordon McConnell will recognize his signature style. You know, he's inspired by old movies and the idea of film stills. And he selected this piece to match the theme of extraction. What I like about this piece is it kind of really blends the Western themes of his work with a lot of, I don't know, he's talked a little bit about Colorado, and it kind of just brings up these ideas of the places where people and the land and the animals are abutting, you know, these more industrial elements of the extractive industries, which is what you see frequently, right? Everything's happening out in rural areas. And so this is our title piece. This is our entryway into the show. This time I'm going to give you more of a quick look around at the pieces. So let's get on the move a little bit and take a look at another piece, larger piece. This is by Shawn Chandler. And I'm just going to give the camera a second to kind of take it all in. It's the largest piece in this exhibition. If you're not familiar with Shawn Chandler is Anai. He is from the Fort Belknap area?
Yes.
Oh, hello, sir.
Hey, how are you doing?
Welcome to Kirks Grocery.
Hey.
Thanks for coming tonight. We have Shane DeLeon,
Why the lights just flashing?
proprietor of Kirks Grocery. He takes a little bit by because he's such
was
a
wild,
bright
hey.
and shining star. So Shane, we were just looking around at Extraction. We were just starting to get into Shawn Chandler's work, which I'm a huge fan of Shawn Chandler. And I thought we'd just talk a little bit about who Shawn is and why he's like a Kirks regular, even though he lives quite far from Billings.
Well, I think we both experienced Shawn's work first over at the Yellowstone Art Museum. Is that correct?
In the Triennial.
In
Yep.
the Triennial. And he had a piece there. I think it stood out to both of us.
Yeah.
And I think he really just started coming by Kirks. I think you mentioned that we should ask him. I think I asked him, and then times went by, and he just hung out here over the last couple of years, been swinging by.
Yeah. Watching these live streams during the lockdown.
Yeah, he's on right now. He's watching. Hey, Shawn.
Hey.
Yeah, so we've just created a friendship, and I love that when I asked him to be part of this group show, that he was like, here's a 14-foot piece. I think that's the thing to do. And I just love his work. This is an expansion of the piece that we had seen earlier at the YAM a few years ago, which was just, Mary and I went back in July to see John Lodge's show up there. We also saw Shawn Chandler's show, and it was pieces this big and larger, as well as pieces, and he has other things we'll see later on in the show, other things that he's done that aren't as large. But you know, there's a whole language in it. There's multiple layers, between all the way down to the pencil drawings. I love that he uses pencil on canvas. I think it's a really strong statement, and just being on.
And
so
Shawn
much
has
to
like
look
a
at.
visual language of his own, and you see that on the large scale and the small scale. It's the kind of piece that if you spend time home, you know, this minutia, and you can just follow it. And you can really, really kind of just think deeply about what Shawn is trying to say to you. He said to me that this is more personal work than what he's done in the past. So, you know, he's sharing a lot of that kind of raw, personal experience that I think for all artists, it's really hard to get to that place where you can reveal that visually in an effective way like Shawn does.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. The pencil work I love so much. I don't think I would ever tire of it. It keeps your eyes darting.
Yeah,
I would love to. I wish this was outside somewhere, because being here in Kirks, you can only get back 25 feet across the room from it. I'd really like this if we were able to get
really
even
get
farther
more
back,
distance.
because I think it does stand up as a whole piece with these yellows here and the yellows there. Even farther back that you could, I think, it's not just all these small things that are disparate and, you know, don't have a visual language.
No,
and it's
they're these
not a
larger
story like a comic book or anything like that. It's a very big circle. You get these not angular lines, but these circular lines, just always bringing your eye.
You don't always know what direction you're going. One flows into another. But like if you go way back, like we just have, but then if you choose a spot and you were to come in closer, you can also just see that Shawn offers so much. And like Shane said too, in terms of all the different art materials, in terms of all the different ways of depicting things visually, you know, even here, the negative space creates the form. And then Shawn is an academic, so he's a deep thinker. And so there's a lot of rich themes in here.
Yeah.
As well as quite a few outhouses and toilets.
And I like to follow him on Instagram. I think, you know, there's so many ways artists talk about themselves, show themselves online. And one of the things he does is he usually puts the temperature. You know, so
he does always put the temperature.
You know, and I think that's, so it'll be like, you know, -20, and then, you know, like whatever, 98, 102.
Yeah. And you'll see a piece of his work.
Yeah, I enjoy that. There's so many ways to categorize information, and especially things like hashtags, which I think are beautiful ways to organize information. You know, it's not linear. It's just like, you know, someone writes the word buffalo, and then you get a buffalo, and you get, you know, this buffalo that has claws, and then other.
Nothing is exactly as it seems in Shawn's work. You know, you kind of get a sense of a certain like symbology of a certain image, but then when you look more closely, he's usually altered it, or made it humorous, or made it tell more than one story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I mean, you're up there where I can barely see.
There's like a brand up here. It looks like the letter G and I over ID, you know, I don't know, you know, God over id. I don't really know what it stands for. I haven't asked him.
That's
I don't ask people a lot of questions. But, you know, then you got these little kind of buffalo people walking, and maybe some horse tracks, some outhouses.
Yeah, and then a little more of that, like, maybe it's a brand or maybe it's like a scientific formula repeating itself.
Yeah.
And
ID or something, you know, it's ID. It could be about his identity, you know, who knows?
Yeah.
Well, things to talk about next time we see you, Shawn.
Next time we see you, we always have a lot to talk about. Yeah.
Shawn says hello.
Hey, Shawn.
Hello, Shawn. Thanks for shouting out to us.
Thanks for making such an amazing piece. We've had so many people come in and just spend, I mean, I think probably the longest I've seen someone spend on it's about half hour, 40 minutes, just like totally taken in by it. It's great. Art's so moving.
And Shawn will have an exhibition here at Kirks in December. So if you're really excited by his work, which I am, know that in December you can either come here or watch a live stream type event and experience it. Yeah. All right, so let's take a look at Shane DeLeon's work. We happen to have the artist here with us tonight. Hi, Shane.
What's up?
Nice to see you. So the idea around all these pieces is abstraction art at the edge of the abyss, all these extractive industries, their impact on the world. What was your starting point for the work you put in this show, Shane?
I've been making these works similar to this. I think I've made about 8 works that I would consider in this genre. I went back to putting things on canvas, so I made about 8 works with them on canvas. To me, they just looked very, you know, afterwards they were very literal. I think right here I wrote, these two works extract the workings of a book, the thread, the paper, and the ink. Ink and thread is and in the process give off an air of polluted factory skylines, thick smoke clouds, and crumbling artifices. But I drew that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely looks like heavy, dark, polluted clouds. I've been continuing to work with some thread, which I've been doing for the last couple years, and just like a unspooling effect in glue. Trying to mimic lines that you would draw with a fluid hand, like with ink or something.
Yeah.
Because I really like to draw lines with ink, but this thread kind of mimics the same kind of lines you can get if you let it fall correctly.
It does. Sometimes you'll hold several pens in one hand and you'll do a looping kind of gesture, and it does. It is reminiscent of that.
Yeah.
And when Anna Page, Billings Gazette arts reporter, was here earlier, she was noticing that both you and I use a lot of thread.
Yeah. I think that, at the time I was getting into Aaron M. Riley and like more into fabric arts, like realizing that was about 4 years ago. And I really wanted to incorporate my work. And, but I didn't want to start weaving or crocheting because that seemed contrived because it wasn't like really something I was interested in. I just wanted to be able to use things like fabric and thread and things like that. And so this was a way, which I always use glue. I always use glue and paper.
Yeah,
so
that big gallon of Elmer's glue. That's what Shane likes to use, not
or some golden, acrylic matte medium.
No.
It's just that Elmer's glue.
No,
with
you just go right to the drugstore. Yep.
50-50. But I love them, and these lines that are darker, I don't know if you can see them in the filming, but they go up and down. That's from layers of glue, that's from the glue mixing with the ink, and I think that's cool. It's like spots.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is all, most of these pages were all from a Charlie Brown comic book. I think there's a couple Mr. Magoo pages in here, but or not a comic book, but one of those little
paperbacks full of comics that are all yellowed now because they're so old. Yeah.
And I love, I love how I leave this work. I'm getting more and more
right
ephemeral with it. Yeah, the spine of the book is right here.
Yeah, and this little piece here where it's just Lucy's face kind of.
And I think I love this little red thing here.
Also strong, yeah.
I don't know. Oh, it says Fawcett, so it's like from the back of the book, like that was the publisher, Fawcett Publishing, Fawcett.
Oh. Yeah, you always like to leave clues about your past. Did you find these books, these source books, or were they yours as a child?
I picked them up at the thrift store across the street.
Yeah, if you need a thrift store.
$1 each.
There's one right there.
But the funny thing is I do have some Peanuts books that I've had since I was a kid, and I didn't destroy those. These are ones that I bought, I don't know, 2 years ago or something.
That didn't have that personal connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
maybe let's hit up this little one here first.
Let's hit up this little one here. We also have the artist here for this little one.
Yeah. Hey, Mary.
Hey, Shane. How's it going?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah. This is one of my pieces
This is
in the
another
show.
piece, or the first piece, we haven't talked about it. This is the first piece we're going to show tonight by Mary Serby called Cook City.
Yeah.
Can you enlighten us on why you called it Cook City?
Well, I mean, I called it Cook City because there was some work that I actually made in Cook City. I had a Montana Arts Council grant to do some work. And for people who aren't familiar with Cook City, especially in the winter, it's pretty remote and isolated. And it's just a great place to just immerse yourself in being an artist without distraction. There isn't really great cell service or Wi-Fi. You're just there. And I've been making work where I would lay down like a thick yarn and coat it with acrylic paint. And here you can see an area where I had yarn, and then after the paint dried, I tore it off.
Yeah.
And so
left little fibers in there too. I like that.
Yeah, and
keeps it a little fuzzy.
There's the fuzzy fibers, and so there had been blue painted underneath, and I extracted those pieces of jute to reveal these lines. And then what had happened is, as I got more creative, I had other pieces where I used different types of thread, and when I extracted that, it actually pulled off acrylic paint around it.
Yeah.
So
that's really cool. I love these little ephemeral, little wavy pieces of plasticized paint.
Yeah, and that's what it is. They're very plasticky, and they are the lines I drew with the thread, glued it down sort of like you would, coated it with acrylic paint, and removed it. And these lines that I didn't think about really as an art material, I never thought about them at all, until they existed, have been a really great inspiration to me. And juxtaposing it with the work I've done where it's based on the lines in a journal, which is why there are lines there.
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah.
This kind of lends back to your work that you were doing in your show you did last year here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Where the next piece that we're going to look at is like a new vibe for you, it seems.
Yeah, so this relates to extraction, like me as the artist extracting.
Yeah.
But then for the larger show, which is tied more to the extraction industries, not many people in town know, even though I moved to Billings about 4.5 years ago, in the late 90s, I moved to Butte. Wow. And so being from New Jersey, really the first time I lived far away from home was in Butte. And I just have nothing but love for Butte. Shout out to anybody in Butte or from Butte. Always love for Butte.
Chip my teeth there.
Yep, Shane chipped his teeth there. Everybody has stories when they go to Butte. And a lot of artists statewide for this show are using the Berkeley Pit as inspiration. It's such an obvious, iconic, super fun site, over a mile wide and a mile deep, sort of this wound on the earth or on the town showing the extractive industries. But what I wanted to do is when I lived in Butte, decades after Columbia Gardens had closed, I wanted to investigate that. Columbia Gardens was an amusement park that had the only roller coaster in Montana. It was built by the mining company for the people. It was free either the whole time or most of the time. So the extractive industries gave Columbia Gardens to Butte, to the state. And then, as time went on, the Berkeley Pit expanded, and it needed that land that Columbia Gardens was on. So it was slated to be closed. It was closed. And then as the history of mining in Butte kind of lends itself to, it just so happened to burn down right after that. And then the mine encroached on it. And I'm not entirely sure, but if this is the Berkeley Pit, I believe that the pit encroached on it and swallowed it up. And everyone still talks about it. I've had people come in here who had been there, and they talk about Columbia Gardens. So I'm interested in the idea of extraction as the two sides of it, the yin and the yang. It brings jobs, it brings financial prosperity in certain ways. But then that industry itself leaves, like in Butte, it's mostly gone. And then there is the extraction of finances, extraction of people. They're the two sides to the coin with extraction.
That's a beautiful piece with a great story and a great history.
Yeah. And it has, as the artist, I will reach inside, and I like the depth of the piece
Hand
too.
out of there. As the gallerist, I'll slap your hand.
As the gallerist and no touching.
No touching the space
No touching.
in between the artwork.
Welcome to the pandemic world, no touching. Yes. So I love that I stacked up the canvases and carved in.
It's a beautiful and a thoughtful piece. And just the ingenuity of taking 5 black canvases, and like sticking them all together to create this sculptural reduction piece, It's like a reduction.
I'm always a woodcut printer at heart, even though I haven't printed in a while.
Oh yeah, it is very.
I mean, that's part of this and part of the other piece too,
Yeah,
that
they
idea
both
of
are.
reduction.
They are definitely reductive prints, yeah.
Yeah. So
Very interesting.
Should we check out this
Sure, which way are we
area
going?
right here? Which way should we go?
Let's close this door. You just keep here. Why don't you talk about Jody?
All right, let's talk about Jody. Let's talk about Jody over here. Jody Lightner, incredibly talented artist here in Billings, up at MSUB as a professor. She just does the most exquisite work on Mylar, and that's not every artist's choice. But she's really become a master of using a variety of media on Mylar, but this is ink. And this piece is called Fielding Equilibrium. And Jody is fascinated by structures, architecture.
Very much so.
She's fascinated by how humans inhabit spaces and what those spaces mean, what you could call negative space. But I think she thinks of those negative spaces as much more full sometimes than what we'd call positive space.
Wow. It's such a great presentation, the way she has it rolled.
Oh,
And
yeah.
a great story about this piece of art. So she made this back in 2018. She made this back in 2018, and you know, I like that she came up with a creative solution to hanging a piece of Mylar without a traditional frame or anything like that. And she rolled it up like a scroll at the top, and she put these little loops right here and there so we could put little pins in the wall or nails in the wall and hold it up.
Oh,
and then the same at the bottom. But to hold this together, it was all a magnet. Like she put magnets on the back of this. And on the corner of the window behind it and like the corner of buildings here, you know, they put this stuff flashing and it's metal. So as she's like holding it up to hang this, it just goes like bonk and sticks to the wall because there was already magnets on it. And then we like kind of step back and it's like the perfect width of this window. And it's just like a really beautiful, happy accident of a place to hang it. And I just love how we got it illuminated from the background a little bit. But as I came through and I was the next morning and I was looking at it and I wanted one on the other side where there was also, so I called her up and I said, hey, you know, there's that window on the other side that mirrors it. Is there any chance you would have made a second one that's the same piece? And Jody, who had made this in 2018, 3 years ago, she says, oh, I'll just make that right today or tomorrow. And then that was like a Tuesday, a Monday or a Tuesday. I think she came in on Tuesday.
She's so prolific.
So she maybe made this on that Wednesday, and then the show opened August 5th, and then I was on Friday. So I love that, like, there's 3 years between these very similar style drawings based on the same thing with the same kind of roller system. I mean, that she's able to, as an artist, someone who moves on to do what I was doing 3 years ago, it'd be interesting, you know, because I've been into what we were looking at earlier, those collages and all the different.
Yeah, your style changes, your hand changes. Over time.
And she really did a nice job of doing a new piece and mimicking it. I think a lot of artists do commissions, and it's like, it's really fun to paint a dog, but when someone says, hey, paint my dog, and then you're like in that pressure, like it's really hard to pull that off with the same aplomb that you might if it would just happen because you painted their dog. And when people say, I love this piece, would you redo it? Would you redo this piece? And then you redo it and you're like, she did it great. She nailed it. I love it.
Because there's that element of art that's not just the technique, right? And so if that thing that we can never fully define for all that's been written and said isn't there, right?
Yeah.
It's really hard to conjure that up again.
And it's like, all the tension in this drawing. And did she make this? Is this something in her studio or did it come out of her mind? I haven't asked her this yet, you know, but I love it because it's like, I just think, like, part of me thinks it's like in the corner of her studio, just like these like pulleys and things she can move around and like then draw it again. And I'm like, why would she have that up from 3 years ago still? You know, great stuff.
And earlier I was asked about the artists in the show and about how some of the artists created work specifically for this show and others had work from earlier, like from 2018, that they submitted because it aligned so well with the theme. Yeah. So there's that combo. Yeah. All right. Which way should we go?
Any comments out there in the comment world?
We got any comments?
You people got anything to throw at us?
Feel free to comment.
Gary Halston.
Oh, yes. He's coming up.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Gary. We're headed your way.
We're heading your way, yeah.
We're headed your way.
Come on back to the cul-de-sac and we'll look at Gary.
Should we look at Gary first?
Yeah, let's go to Gary.
Let's go right to Gary. Gary Halston. Not only is he watching the live stream, but he is also an artist who created this piece right here titled Abandoned Roads.
Yeah, he made this with acrylic and spray paint on canvas. Gary's an artist that we've been working with about a year. Did we start last December?
Maybe even longer because time's a little odd with the pandemic. Yeah.
I think last December during Renee Audet's show we did his show in the back. No, because then he was in.
That was longer.
He was in group shows before that. I think.
Yeah. No, Gary's been.
Anyway,
around.
Gary's been around for a while. I love his work. You know, he's working with brushstrokes, expressionism. You know, in a completely different way than Shawn Chandler was out there with, you know, using.
Shawn uses a
detail, not detail, but the word is figurative and representational.
Oh yeah, a mix of representational and abstract in Shawn's. Yeah.
And then, you know, we come to Gary's, and for me, a lot of what Gary does great is just move paint around in a really interesting way. Some of my favorite parts of this painting, I love how this line goes like this, starts to break up, comes up, you know. But this, I love this harsh line of black.
Oh, I
how
know,
that
you're always
ends.
talking about that. Yeah,
It
the
breaks,
alignment.
and then this line goes here. I love it so much.
Yeah, it even connects over here.
Yeah,
These
how this one
lines-
stops here. It's like this perfect.
Yeah.
This comes through it. It's a really nice use of paint. It's a really nice use of color. Always using texture. I feel for me, I've only been following Gary's work maybe a year and a half. I can't remember exactly. Sorry, Gary. The mind gets fuzzy.
Shane drove back from Portland last night, so. But I love the way Gary layers his work.
Yeah.
You know, you can see the large expressive movements of the paint, but then when you get closer, you really see that there's a lot of intricate layering and a lot of thought about how almost all the colors in this are warm. But to me, Abandoned Roads, it has that feel of the grays and the asphalt first. And then these warmer pinks and reds and orangey tones are kind of underneath.
An interesting thing I find about Gary as an artist and as a person. So I feel mainly his work is abstract. When he brings his work to me, you know, I don't look for representation in it or anything. I enjoy the textures, the paint movement, you know, the colors, the composition for sure. He's asked me a few times, hey, do you see this in there? Hey, do you see that in there? You know, and I think part of Gary's, what he also does, maybe as an inside joke to himself or inside joke to the viewer, is that he puts representation in there, maybe as like, I think the kids call it an Easter egg, for you to find, and he kind of tells you, but I can never find it until he points it out to me. So I'm not, you come in, I'll personally explain to you where Gary told me was in here, but it would take too long right here.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I love these lines, which I kind of believe are the roads going up into the mountains. Kind of.
See,
when
I
see
think
these, I think these go like this, kind of.
I think this is a hard, like, you know, it's the middle of the night and you're driving down a highway or a freeway. Yeah, and you have
It's like
that.
the light,
the energy, you know, a lot of the energy down here and over here to me is almost like expression lines when you see a drawing and there's that that sense of movement. And so it's very much like, I feel like it's almost vibrating with movement on these abandoned roads. Yeah.
Why don't we turn this way next?
We'll turn that way.
Let's go this way instead of this way.
All right, we're kind of we have choices right now.
We have choices.
Oh,
Phoebe Naps.
Yes.
We're stoked to have some Phoebe Naps here at Kirks Grocery. It's the first time we've had Phoebe Naps, local celebrity and artist here from Billings, Montana, whose studio is surprisingly close to Kirks, and I did not know that for years.
Yeah, down by, oh yeah.
Yes, it's very close to here. We could get there real quick.
Yeah.
And I love it, and she has this on walnut. Most of the work I've seen by her was stuff, it was in a catalog that I'd seen up at the Missoula Art Museum in the past. She had these pieces called Beastie Boys, which were bronzes that were out front of the Missoula Art Museum, and kind of, to describe them, kind of would be like really rough hewn tusks, like maybe 5 foot tusks, 4 or 5 foot tusks, that 4 of them, they kind of
Wow.
like that, and that was in the Missoula Art Museum show. And I've just seen her book, which John Lodge, local favorite, helped design the cover of one of her books, which it actually has like thin veneer of wood like on the cover.
Well, yeah,
of
I
her
always
book.
associate Phoebe's work with wood, and
Yep.
especially work that is literally very heavy, and that conveys, you know, sort of like for anyone who's been to the redwoods or anywhere with enormous trees, you know, when there's enormous amounts of wood, it kind of, on a human level, creates a certain feeling. And this piece, I think it applies to this piece as well.
And this one's called Excavate or Extract. It's out of walnut, as we said, and very literally, you know, she has excavated and extracted, you know, pyramids, whatever. This kind of looks like the pit again. It looks very similar to your pit. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers deep, like yours as well. This piece and this, she gets in there. She moves this piece of walnut around. The next piece we look at by her, it has a little story about where the wood comes from, because Phoebe's really fascinated by wood. And the bronzes that I saw were made originally from wood, but she had made bronzes of the wood.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So yeah, we'll read a little more about the source wood, and the second piece we have by Phoebe Naps, which will be kind of around the way, probably where we'll end, is another powerful piece. Yeah, I mean, Phoebe's work has its own signature style too. I think of the by leaving, you know, the original natural finish to a huge degree, but then
And
like
it's
you
it's
said,
2/3 of the piece. 2/3 of the piece is
It
on.
is.
You know, it's like this raw. It's like, you know, old stone carvings you see where it's like a big block and only like, you know, part of the guy's coming out of it or something like that. You know?
yeah, and she sources this wood too. I mean, you don't just run into this. You don't go to the art supply
No,
store.
this is
you
some
have
rare
to
wood.
travel.
And yeah, the next one I'll read the little tag that comes with
Yeah.
it to let you know that this wood is pretty much extinct, it sounds like, from what she wrote. So we'll get the history
Yeah.
in just a little bit.
Hang out and find out more, everyone.
Let's flip it 180.
Oh, we're flipping it 180, yeah, because you never know where we're going.
I don't know.
You
I guess
never
we should
know
win
on the
the
live
circle.
stream.
I don't know.
I don't know. We're prepared for
I've
anything.
never even driven a
We
car,
can flip it
'cause
again. I mean, we can do anything here. We can
My
go
whole
down.
experience with driving is just like bumper cars.
Oh, really?
So I just don't.
It's hard to fit Shane in the bumper car, but he'll still participate. So you may recognize Shawn Chandler. His work was just out front, the 14-foot piece. And now here's a smaller piece by Shawn called Skull Self-Portrait.
I could see Bear having this painted on the back of a jean jacket and freaking loving it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bear Burden Ground.
Yeah,
Yes.
I did. I don't know why, but this painting, you know how paintings make you feel. Paintings give you emotions out of nowhere. You don't even know. You just look at a piece of art and it makes you think of somebody. You know, and this to me, I love it. It's like punk rock. That thing on the head to me always looks like a little bit of a mohawk.
Yeah.
It's like the.
Well, and these could be like spikes. If you see a
Yeah.
mohawk here, you're going to see spikes here. Yeah, you bring your own vision to it.
But once again, he's using the same kind of visual language. Once again, he's got teepees down here. Is there any outhouses on this one over there?
There is a structure.
There's a structure. Maybe
yeah.
a latrine. Here's a buffalo again. I love that.
And to me, I feel like
it's
it
like a little
goes from
Wonder Bread
small to large, as opposed to interspersing small and large. I feel like, you know, we've got small and then larger, and then this self-portrait, this main image is the largest. And really, even though there's a lot of beautiful work with paint here, no features.
So painterly.
For a self-portrait.
Very, very painterly. Pretty graphic too, this piece. I mean, you know, but it's also,
It
it's
is.
very painterly. I love you can see when he's going back and forth, up and down, the angles of the paint, the scumbled up. You like,
Ah, nice
Up
use
here.
of the word scumbling.
hey,
Scumbled. Yeah.
50-cent art word. Here we go. But I love this piece up here, how it's all just like,
Yeah, I
it's
love
like
how.
road worn, road weary.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice transition from the Gary Halston piece, which is next to
Yeah.
it.
No, I think they play off each other nicely.
Yeah, the grays with the warm colors, because we've got this like beautiful orange that kind of shines through here, even though the predominant colors are black and white and gray.
There's actually a lot of color in it. I mean, the more you look at it, you know, the oranges, the yellows,
Yeah,
the taupes.
the taupes, yes, absolutely.
Speaking of taupe, Emily Davidson over here.
Here's
with this
serious
taupe sky.
taupe right here. I'm gonna just check on our dog real quick while you tell our friends about Emily
There's
Davidson.
someone knocking at
He's
the
good.
door too. We locked the doors. We were having a lot of interruptions because we were open. So we closed up.
Okay, everything's
Emily
fine.
Davidson. We did a show of hers back in March. Real successful show. We always have her prints available. Excuse me.
Oh, yes.
Ooh, I almost took out your
No, it's a
top
Price is
drawer
Right
here.
moment.
Come on down.
They're
Check out
top
some Emily.
drawer prints, everybody.
Top
drawer.
shelf. This piece I love. Had some friends in here today. I believe. What do you think? 70s. They're in their 70s. Our friends who are in here first thing.
I'd say our friends are roughly retirement age.
They were
I would
really
say.
feeling this piece, which is called "The Race Towards Demise," and it's all these like. They look happy and energetic to get to their demise in a way. And even when they are at their demise down here with all the, what do you see here?
I see fish.
I see fish. They're just still like chilling in the fish. Like this little guy's like just hanging on a fish.
I love the
You know, they're not
delicacy.
sad. They know, you know, we all know death is coming. I'd say we all know death is coming. Yeah.
Well, not me. I'm going to be around.
We're going to live forever.
I plan to live forever. See you in a couple hundred years, everyone. Yeah, I love the way she paints skeletons, because this is not the first piece we've seen with skeletons. I mean, they're almost a little bit like ants or insects, and they're super delicate. And like you said,
They're
sort of
not-
exuberant.
Yeah, they're exuberant.
Even the ones who are just hanging from these parachutes, they're kind of, I mean, like you can see right here, they're just kind of like they can't wait to get on in there.
It's like dance
and get
music.
involved.
There's definitely
Yes.
dance music going on while they're going
It's
towards
true.
they're dancing to their demise is the
Yeah, and then
is
she
the remix
switches.
of this painting.
The ones in there with the fish become white, right? So they're black skeletons.
Oh,
they
that
fall
is
through
interesting.
the sky,
Yeah.
and then when they're in this sea, and maybe the toxic sludge is their demise, maybe the hungry fish, maybe something else, they turn white and they're
Oh, look here.
enjoying.
As they pass the dock from black, they go to gray here.
Oh,
They're not even
yeah.
white. That one, these are white down here, but
That's
they're
what we call
actually.
shading, my friends. Yes, not really, but that is called.
But I mean, that's a
black to
great
gray to
sense
white.
of depth because as these guys come down, so these people that are within maybe,
Yes, within that, yes,
they're all turning gray.
they're turning gray. Yeah, I mean, I think that
I'm turning gray. Have you noticed that recently?
I've not noticed, no. But Emily's a very, she just has beautiful technique and
Yeah.
precision when she paints, and she doesn't get comfortable with having the strong technique. She's always using it and taking it to the next level, kind of challenging herself. I mean, yeah, like just watching these skeletons climb back up or dance on top. The anatomy is pretty spot on for every skeleton she has.
Yeah, it's fun, and people really resonate with her work. A lot of people resonate with Emily's work. They come in, they remember it, they ask about it, and especially these little skeletons. These really resonate with people.
They
I think
do.
sold 3, or we've
And this
we've
one
sold
sold.
3. We've sold 3 with the skeletons on it. So
And this one's, yeah.
you know,
And this is kind of the hat
as a
trick of-
gallerist, maybe I should just tell her to quit doing anything but skeletons. It's skeletons now, Emily. Skeletons for you.
Skeletons now, skeletons for you. All right, so we're going to do another wild 180 flip, aren't we? Because we've kind of entered the space in a way. I know, no one knows. Anything can happen. Here we go. Where are we going? Are we going over here?
Oh, we got a couple things over here.
We do.
Todd Forsgren.
Todd Forsgren, excellent photographer.
These are just amazing.
Yeah.
Super, just high contrast. They remind me of when people post images on Instagram, super blown out, like high contrast images. It's oil on water, with the black parts being the water. And now I don't know how much, because I don't ask these questions, this is post-production, or if this is like the sunlight, just how he captured this image. So if you're out there, Todd, listening, let us know
Feel
if
free
this
to
is
chat in.
a lot of post-production, or if it was, I try to look at art just as for what it is, and don't try to really judge the media or the techniques, even though we all, I think, personally have our things we like the most, that speak to us, whether it's painting or drawing or sculpture,
But even Todd's photographs that are extremely representational also invite you to stand there and think, I don't know how this guy got this image. I don't know how it happened. I want to know more. I want to know the story. And the pieces you may have seen with the birds and the nets make you wonder how he got that particular shot.
I believe was our show April, May, we had done a Todd Forsgren show.
Beautiful big photographic prints.
Yeah, ornithological. Oh, look at that, we still got one left.
There we go.
We've actually, I think, started with about 10 of these books, and this is our final one, If you're on there and we're doing an
last
auction
one.
tonight live, we're going to start with, because it's been the floor copy.
Auction? Ooh.
Well, hey, I'm going to sell this
let's
30
start
bucks
the
out there.
bidding.
Everybody, if someone
Bidding.
pops out 30, I'll 30, 30, 30.
Wait, is that an auction? Does the bidding start at 30?
The bidding starts at 30.
Bidding
It's
be-
usually 50.
But the
It's the
bidding
final
starts
floor
at
copy.
30.
Some weird guy spit between every page, but no, that's not true.
No,
That is
that's
so
not true. But think about the joy. I have many friends in Billings who are extremely enamored with our feathered friends out there in the world. So right now, if you bid $30,
She doesn't want to do. I don't really
you
want.
can have
We're
this.
trying to
Oh
make it
no,
fun.
no, we're making it happen. You could bid $30 on this book, which
It's
is
the floor
typically
copy.
$50.
Yeah.
But then let's say someone else comes in and they bid $31.99. They will have won that auction. So get
This
ready,
auction's over
everybody.
now. Okay.
Wait.
What? Let's move on. Or let's
Okay.
keep talking about Todd's photos.
But let's actually talk about the work that Todd has up right now, even though his work that was up recently.
If
was
we get
also
some
just-
bids in, we'll continue that conversation.
But I think, a theme that we're seeing across a lot of this work, though not all of it, is that when we think of extraction, which often makes people think of oil,
I
the color
think that
black
always
is
pops into my
strong.
mind. I mean,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Throw a hands up out there in the comments if you think that when you hear the word extraction, oil is the #1 industry. You think
but
of.
I mean, we're in Billings, right? If you were in Washington State, you might think of forestry, right? I mean, or the fishing industry. But I think
Yeah.
black is a theme of sort of man-made extraction and the byproducts. Black.
That's what
you
I
know?
used, yeah.
Black, and this is oil on water, and we think about that. When
Look at these
oil-
mixtures of colors; they're so wild.
I know,
Like
it's incredible.
I mean, you could paint it. I mean, I'm not saying you would. You could, but it's just like so wild. The
I know.
striations and the
Yeah, and the
just
gradations.
mixing of the gradations.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Variations and variegations. Let's
The
just keep
variations
going.
and variegations. And tell me, as we talk
And these
about
actually,
that,
so my Renee Audet, another local favorite, and someone we love here at Kirks Grocery, have shown tons of her work, have sold tons of her work. It's available online, kirksgrocery.com. Anyways, after this had been up about a week, I was like, I want to put Renee's butterflies and nets up on the wall because they just reminded me of not necessarily the extraction industry, I guess. After I hung them, I thought it's not really about extraction. It's more about just the capturing of the natural world, kind of, and the sadness of the loss of nature, I guess, is what the existentialness of how I got to why these are an extraction. I think I had invited her to the show, and for whatever reason, she just wasn't able to participate. And then I came across these like a week later, and I just added them to the show. And I love them. They're just these beautiful ceramic butterflies that she's built, and then, attach them into these little, very delicate little nets that I just love.
and like you said, every single butterfly is ceramic. This is a ceramic piece. So it might be hard from home to know what you're seeing here, but Renee Audet is an incredibly gifted ceramic artist. And her ability to create these kinds of pieces, small as they are, is really just one aspect of kind of her genius and her vision. I think it's nice next to Todd's work because on the one hand, beauty like butterflies and certain types of birds are disappearing, but then there's this bizarre beauty that you see in highly polluted places, colors we consider more unnatural, along this kind of spectrum too.
Well, I like that this blue butterfly right here, I mean, as a tall person who sees this blue butterfly right off the bat, I love it up against the blue there. It's like, psh, psh. These two don't have blue in them. I think this is the only one with
It's the
blue.
only one, that's right, everyone. $100 each, and you could have the blue one. All right, let's come wrap it
I
up
think
over
we got
here.
a few more pieces in this, and then we're
Yeah.
gonna.
We've got LB here on the floor because he always joins us for our live streams.
We have a couple comments.
Ooh, let's hear
Great.
the comments. Who's a good boy? What are our comments that we're hearing? LB is curious and interested.
Kenneth Dewey.
Yay!
Yes.
Which one is Kirk and which one is Grocery?
Yeah.
And
Well, I'm Kirk. Grocery.
And I'm the apostrophe and the S, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Or the S and the apostrophe. That's just
I think who's Kirk and who's Grocery is it's all the people that show up. These two right here. It's everybody. It's you, Kenny Dewey, watching this right now on your phone. I don't know. It's about everybody.
It is
I don't
about
like to
everybody.
be Kirk's face. I don't want to be Kirk.
everybody's
People
something
call me Kirk.
between, you could be okra, you could be a can of corn, you could be ice cream, but you are part of the Kirks Grocery offerings, whatever you may be, yeah.
Jennifer French says she loves your banter and it's such a great show.
Oh, thanks,
thank
Jennifer.
you.
And Emily sends some alien heads.
Oh,
nice.
nice.
All
The
right.
weird thing about skeletons, Emily. No, I'm joking.
Should we become immersed?
We all have one inside us.
Yes.
We all have a skeleton inside of us, so we're told.
And all skeletons can break down.
Yes.
Anyways, let's move on to
All
Samantha
right.
French. Great banther.
Samantha French, yes. I love this piece. I love this direction that Samantha French has taken.
Yeah.
Am I adding to this or subtracting from it? by
Oh, you're
being
fine
inside
down
of
there.
it?
I think you know so much of this piece. So Samantha French. I think I first saw her work Toucan, I guess, huh?
I saw her work at a quick draw at the Yellowstone Art Museum, where she was adding beads into her work as she
Yeah.
started to. When I discovered her, she was really starting to incorporate beads into work that's on canvas. She's gotten more sculptural with that, but I love that she just went full on installation and full on recycled materials for this piece.
I love it.
Tangled. Yeah. And so, I mean, every day, especially in Montana, we buy our groceries, we buy things from stores like that, like Target, Walmart. We have all the bags, we try to reuse some of them, but Samantha French, in thinking about extraction and these themes, she used those bags from the grocery store.
Cut them all up, wove them together, spray painted them
Yeah.
on top of these pieces of paper, which
That's
later,
right.
I don't know, I didn't ask her if these pieces were initially going to be part of the exhibition, or it's just that they were so cool and they had such a great level. As paintings, they give so much depth. Yeah, they're like the wavering of space. This like fills space, and that's like the space between space and shadows. I love that right there. Yeah, what'd she call them? Negatives, right? Tangled negatives. Great.
Tangled negatives.
It's exactly what they are.
And for people who love art and have a smaller budget, it's only $20 to get a tangled negative.
Yeah.
While
she
this
actually did
full
them
tangled has sold already. Yeah.
extremely reasonable rate. So no reason anyone out there shouldn't be able to own some original art.
Yeah.
You know, we even got a sponsorship program. If you don't have $20, we can buy it for you. So make sure to ask about that.
Wow,
I'm getting really snarky today.
Ask
What's that?
about
That's snarky's the
that.
wrong word.
But I like the fact that Samantha priced her work so that people can have it in their home, because it's always hard as an artist. You need to make a living, you need to buy your supplies, you need to be a professional, and yet you also just want people to have your work if they love it. And I love that
And so much of
these
this piece,
pieces are priced that way.
I love these shadows. All these shadows on this
shadows.
wall are amazing.
Here.
And actually the shadows in the glass, I don't know if
Yep.
the camera will
I
get
don't know.
that.
Here, I'll
But
get
there's
it
like
online.
actually shadows in the glass that throughout the day they change. And there's just so many great shadows, and because it's structural and because there's space between the lines, it creates all those dimensions. And I was really happy when she brought me this, because I have really liked her work for a long time. She's represented by the toucan, and so after asking her a few times, I said, well, maybe you could do a group show. And so I was happy she was able to do this. And she came in, she asked if she could use this corner specifically. She kind of, I think, saw it in her brain. And then she built this corner and I don't know, it took her 3 hours maybe one day on the installation. She came in. These kind of started out flat, and she started pulling them in different directions with the lines to get the different dimensions until she got them where she liked. It was fun to watch her. I just kind of sat there and gave her, what I thought. And we were both always impressed by the shadows. And I think once we pulled this piece through that hole, it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Also beautiful is the work of May Starr. Got May Starr's work right here. We got LB right there under the wheels of the camera. Although our camera's magical and doesn't have wheels.
May Starr, old friend of mine from Portland, Oregon. May Starr, she's really a story of the West. She grew up in Casper, moved to Bozeman, went to MSU for her university years, and then she moved to Portland, where I met her in '94. And we were in a band together for over a decade called Rollerball.
Is she still in that band?
She is still in the band Rollerball, which started in '94. It's the same 3 people, though I was in, and a couple of people have been in and out. The same core trio is the same people. Rollerball out of Portland, Oregon. And I've always loved her artwork. She does a lot of mainly abstract, a lot of times with symbols, symbology. I believe she wouldn't be shy of me calling her a witch or someone who practices magic, and just a real interesting person, spiritual, just amazing. I love her. She does great, beautiful artwork. And
I like how it says that extractions heal in her description,
yeah.
She says that twice. So I think that's really an interesting take on extraction, because extractions will heal in almost any context that you think of them, even when you think of things that have been done to the earth. If you take the time frame far enough out,
Yeah.
in some way it will change and heal, which is really interesting. You know, she says, lies within the earth's taped holes. So I love the poetry that